President Bill McGowan, Carol Rowe, Paul Kears, Don Coughlin. Our first order of business is our next meeting, which would be the 18th of February.
Okay.
Now, right now, that looks good.
Okay.
One small administrative thing. I'm going to move the approval of meeting minutes. I haven't read them yet, so I'll be by Carol either tomorrow or Thursday, and I'll just read them and sign them at that point for approval.
Sounds great.
Okay, so we could do the Jerusalem Road abatement first.
Okay. All right. So the abatement, Ware River overcharged them for a year. So their issue is that we charged them 43,100 cubic feet when it should only have been 8,100 cubic feet. So there were 3 separate abatement forms that Brenda already set up for 3 separate amounts. And the first amount is $1,286.58. The second one is $1,359.80. And the last one is $1,014.62. So the total of all 3 abatements is $3,661.
Oh, that's got to be the prize winner I've seen.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so how did it go on so long is the question.
Yeah, that's my question.
A whole year.
I guess there was an issue with the meter that they had. So they finally got an actual reading, and they gave them the water credit, and this is for the sewer.
Okay.
Okay, they haven't paid it. Well, that doesn't matter. It's just more of an accounting issue because we really haven't done much.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, and so Brenda can back this all up, and we're no issues on.
Correct.
Okay, and have they put anything into play that would prevent this from happening again? Do you know? Did you ask her?
I can't ask her. Yes.
I mean,
They
it just
put it
seems
in-
like a long period of time to have this go. I mean, if somebody saw a bill for, X $1,000 all of a sudden, I would have thought that would have, set up some red flags.
Okay.
You say they put a new meter in?
It doesn't say here that they put a new meter in. Let me see if she gave me any other information. No, I don't see that they put in a new meter.
Oh,
She
okay.
just gave me the information that it was Ware River's issue on their end with how their meter read their charges, and it was incorrect, but I can ask her.
Yeah, well, so well, I don't want to presume, but can I assume then that it's an accounting error versus do we actually pump that much water through?
Yes, correct.
You want to
So
make a
we have
motion,
this-
Paul?
Yeah, we've had the same issue the last couple of abatements were because of Ware River's
Yeah.
account.
Mhm.
So I don't know if Brenda could talk to them to find out if there's some sort of systemic issue over there or not. Would be nice to know.
Yeah.
That if they have a problem with software, then it'd be nice to know what they're doing to address it.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the abatement for 752 Jerusalem Road for $3,661.
Okay, we'll roll call. Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kears, aye.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so.
So do you want to skip Lambert's until Pam comes
Yeah,
back?
we'll move it on until we get Pam, because I wanted Pam and Charlotte to give us just an update as to what they're doing with respect to this, just because we seem to be not that, it's just more for information purposes than anything, so.
Okay.
And I think it would just be good to have them all at the same time.
Okay.
The same folks are here. So, I would suspect. Oh, we have Mr. Scott on board too. Wow. So why don't we get
Carol,
right
can
to
you hear me?
one of my favorite subjects, the influence screen replacement.
Okay.
Text Carol.
What do you want to say to Carol?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It says,
Okay,
"Can
thanks.
you-" Okay, cancel.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so the report on the Lakeside grit screw screening system, that was there was a town meeting vote, last annual town meeting for 500,000 to replace that system. And part of that replacement was pumping down the tank. And is John on here as well? Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yep.
basically I'll defer to those guys, but basically they pumped down the tank, found that the tank was deteriorated, and their recommendation is replacement of the tank, which significantly increases the cost to basically 500,000 to $1 million, or just over. And I guess I'll pass it off to John to get into the specifics. If he could. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you for your time, opportunity to talk to you about the project. Tia Trait with Woodard and Curran, I believe, is also on this meeting. I don't know if she can be given.
I did promote her.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. And I'm going to share my screen. We've got if I can, am I able to share my screen?
One moment.
Okay. I've got a PowerPoint.
Yep, you're all set now.
Okay. Let's see. Can you see that? I've got a PowerPoint up. Let me try this again. I don't think I'm sharing.
Pam, they just skipped over John for right now, so okay.
Can you see that?
You're good.
Yes.
John.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thanks again. I'll kind of move through this. I'll try to move through this quickly, but certainly jump in if you've got any questions. So the agenda we just wanted to talk through today, we've kind of give some background on how we originally started, the scope of work, the tank inspection that Brian talked about, that we found some new information, our recommendations coming out of that new information. Some of these slides provide additional details. I'll give you the details on what we're recommending as a updated revised budget for the project. I'm going to kind of go out of order. I'm going to cover that and then get into the schedule, because I think it just makes a little more sense that way. And then, so that's the agenda I was going to go through today. The original scope of work was to replace the screening equipment in kind. It had operational issues. The main grit, the grit screw, the screening screw. So that's kind of visible in the top right picture. That equipment sits in a tank, a stainless steel tank, which is there's a second photo on the bottom right that shows a picture looking down into the tank. Was there a question? Sorry. Okay. And so the original scope was just to replace the equipment and within keep the existing tank. That was what the original $500,000 allocation was for. And so Woodard and Curran's scope of work was to put together a set of bid documents, design documents to go ahead and bid out the work to replace that equipment. As we got into it, we recommended doing some due diligence on the condition of the tank to understand, what is expected life expectancy would be. And so we worked with a specialty sub-consultant, Corrosion Probe Inc. They came out and did an evaluation in September, and they identified that there is some corrosion on the interior of the tank. That corrosion is primarily understood to be the result of chloride corrosion. So there's likely to be a high level of salt water intrusion into the sewage And so that has caused corrosion of the tank. As a result of that, we are now recommending that the town replace the tank. The existing tank is a 304, is manufactured from 304 stainless steel. We're recommending that the replacement tank be a 316 because it has better chloride resistance. And so that is that part of it. This slide just shows a comparison. 304 stainless steel is resistant to a chloride concentration of 250 to 300, whereas what we're recommending, 316, has a much higher resistance of 800 to 1,000 milligrams per liter of chloride. I'm going to jump to the budget slide. So the original, and I'll pause there if there's any questions. I know I'm trying to just be concise with this, but any questions so far?
Yeah, I did. Basically, did he determine the percent loss of the metal tank?
The percent loss, I think it was dependent on where, certain areas were worse than others. Do you have additional information on that, Tia, in terms of percent loss?
Yeah, there were areas that were exhibiting up to 60% loss.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I've got one question. So as I'm sure you know, we've been doing a very extensive work, Jacobs Meadow, on trying to stop, if not reduce drastically, saltwater intrusion into our plant. Now, would that obviate the use of a higher spec stainless steel, or would it just be prudent to keep the higher spec?
I would recommend keeping the 316 spec. Just, I'm speculating that there's other saltwater intrusion. II is infiltration inflow is obviously a problem everywhere in New England, essentially, and so I think it's very it's a good program that you've got to correct II, but to some extent it's always so I would, for that reason, I would recommend going with the 316. I think it's a safer approach.
So is there an opportunity to repair rather than replace? Is there able to go in and weld and cut section?
Yes, we did evaluate that. That is an option. The downside of doing that is, in addition to, welding on, welding on metal to make it more structurally sound, we would also recommend a coating system be applied. And that coating system would then, the downside of having that coating system is that becomes a maintenance item that would really need to be inspected and probably touched up periodically, say once every 2 years or something like that. And so
What coating would you put on it?
there are different epoxy coatings that could be applied
So why would you put a coating on it?
to protect the steel.
There's no coating now. On the
Right.
inside.
Correct. That's correct.
So coating, yeah. So a coating doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're going to put a new tank in, are you suggesting coating that as well? If you're going with 316, I mean, there's other surface treatments that you can do to stainless steel that's non-coated, that you could do, and you could put all kinds of processes onto the steel to keep it from corroding. That is non-coated, it's more of a erudite, or it's more of a titanium nitrate coating of some sort that will be permanent to the metal, but not necessarily a coating that you would have to maintenance. So how big of an area are we talking about? What's the size of the tank? I mean, how many square feet are we talking about? Is this thing like 20 feet square, or what is it?
Yeah, it's a fairly large tank. this is showing it in plan view. This doesn't give a scale, so it's not.
Okay.
I think I have an aerial photo here. Yeah, it's a little hard to see, but it's basically, if you can kind of, if you're familiar with the building,
Yeah.
the tank sits, you know, in like here. So that gives you kind of a rough idea of the size relative to the building. Do you know the dimensions, Tia, by any chance?
So
Not
Paul,
offhand, no,
roughly
sorry.
it's, I'd say it's like 3/4 of the width of the building, which is, I don't know, maybe 30 feet. And
Yeah.
again, I'm just totally spitballing, by maybe 6 to 8 feet tall. So, and again, that could be plus or minus
Yeah.
several feet. So if you think of the perimeter walls, you got, you know,
There's
180.
no liner that you look at to put in.
So I can tell you, we met previously to go over this slideshow, and this is
Yeah.
what, and I said, you know, we need to bring this to the commission. Obviously, it's a big change. Since that meeting, John and Tia, I had the progress meeting with the sewer I&I folks, so in situ form, and I said, hey, you know, what do you think about a liner in this tank? And basically they said if we could walk to it, we could line it. But we didn't really get into specifics, but I think it would be worth kicking the tires to have, you know, there's on-site professionals working on a project, maybe to look at it and see, yeah, here's the pros and cons and the costs. And at least we can say that we looked at all the options with everyone on site before.
Yeah, if we took a look at a liner too, depending on the material of the liner, you know, that may be a more friendly to the salt. So, you know, maybe it's more corrosion resistance to the extent that, you know, changing out a liner every 5 or 7 years might be more cost effective than putting in a $500,000 tank and waiting for it to rust out again. So,
I should mention on the quote that's there, the tank itself, the 316 tank, looks like it's only 126,000. So the tank assembly, you know, you can't do a lot of repairs for that amount of money, you know, with the 316 tank. So
Yeah, and
126,000 doesn't seem like that much, you know,
Just-
compared to.
I wanted to add that we did discuss a liner with the manufacturer. And because of the way that the screw is mounted on the bottom of the tank, the mechanical screw, it's very difficult to line this tank. And so that was something that we did discuss with them. You know, just want to add that in there.
I've got one question, I guess, or at least my final one. Is there any data that has been collected in this exercise that states that if we get a brand new one, the life expectancy will be X, and if we just do the coating, the life expectancy will be Y? You know, I would prefer, I mean, as much as I don't want to spend the money for the ratepayers, to do something that has a very long, you know, has a good size shelf life, so we don't have to go through this again.
yeah, I mean, we're going through $2 million in 24 months here, you know, between
Yeah.
membranes and liners or membranes and tanks. You know, I'm not sure how sustainable that is, but obviously, how old is the existing tank?
It's basically 24, 25 years almost.
And the delta between, say, refinishing it and replacing it is what?
I don't think there's a number for refinishing it though. Is
Yeah,
there?
I mean, the reason that we ultimately didn't recommend the refinishing is because our structural engineers couldn't guarantee any time frame on
Yeah.
preventing leakage with a repair. And so, you know, we don't know what that time frame would look like. And to me, you know, if you spend money on a repair, you want some kind of guarantee that, hey, this is going to hold up for X number of years.
Yep.
And they were unable to give us that number.
All right, so my final question on this, would it be reasonable to expect that with the I&I work that we're doing and hopefully the reduction in I&I into this tank, and getting a brand new one, the life expectancy would be more than 25 years.
So I think what we could do on that front is, we're recommending 316 stainless steel to extend the life of it. 316 stainless steel is expected to be resistant to somewhere 800 to 1,000 milligrams per liter of chloride. One thing we could do to address your question is we could get some samples of the influent, test it for chloride, and see what those concentrations are. If they're less than 800 to 1,000, I think that makes it, more, gives you more certainty that this investment is going to hold up.
So 316 just has a higher content of nickel in it versus 304. So it's corrosion resistant, but the question is it more corrosion resistant than 304 on the materials that you're saying? That's the question.
Right. So my understanding is that 316 is more resistant to chloride than 304. That is, I believe that is clear.
But it looks like it's only about 12 to 20% more. And then the question is, what is the cost of the 304 versus the 316?
Yep. So I don't know that we have numbers. We could get a number on the 304. We
Yep.
requested a quote for the 316, but we could definitely get you that information if you want it.
Yeah. I don't want to pay double.
I think it'd be prudent to do that just to get a comparison. I mean, it's a lot of money.
If we're only going to get another 3 years out of a tank because it's 316, but it's double the price, it doesn't make sense to me.
No.
But
So if I could just add, because I think time's of the essence, I like the idea of sampling, but the I&I work is going on now, and the actual liner is going to be going in the next week or two. So if you could coordinate, maybe if Scott could pull just some samples, I don't know how long we can. I don't think there's any degradation on chlorides, but like if they could pull some samples and maybe leave them aside for testing, I think it'd be a good idea, regardless, to do chloride testing before and after the I&I work to benchmark, what our improvement might be.
Yeah.
so they can't move forward with the replacement stuff until we figure out what to do with the tank, right?
That's right. Yeah. And just
So,
one thing on the price point. I mean, the reason, so if we lined it, obviously the tank would stay. A big part of this is, it's going to be a crane and all the disassembly in the back of the plant, and you would have to, lift in with a crane a new tank and do all the work associated with that, so that it's a labor intensive process. And
So funding has to be approved at town meeting for this.
right. Well,
So we
I
have
think
like,
we can talk offline, but I think so.
Okay.
You have the currently appropriated money, and then there is additionally, I want to say 150 or so of ARPA money remaining that you could use. So the delta would be, maybe 300, which could be, I think, under your retained earnings.
it
But
could be,
again,
yeah.
But I think that would be, that's a town meeting vote, or
Yeah.
if you deem this an emergency, you could do it with an advisory board type request or something like that.
Yeah, but to Paul's point, I think, we've been bleeding pretty heavily here between the membranes and everything else, I
Right.
want to be prudent, so.
Yeah, I agree. I think we look at every single option here, and I've already asked in situ form, even just so they could take a peek at it and maybe throw some recommendations around, just so that.
Okay, so how quickly they can move to get us the information. I would recommend putting a placeholder with an article placeholder in the warrant. If it's possible, I don't know when they close it, at the end of the month.
Yep.
Or sooner, right? So we want to get a placeholder in there anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if necessary, we can get the data for next week. We could schedule a session just to go over this, if it's warranted, obviously.
So just in summary, the information that I think I'm planning for Woodard and Kern to get back to you with is the chloride chloride sampling results, the cost for a 304 tank versus the 316, and a you know, I think we should look at the was it in situ form? We'll talk to them and see see what they have to say from a cost point of view, and also if there's some way to work around the attachments. They may have experience with that our structural engineers don't, but we'll run that to ground also. I'm understanding is something that the sewer commission would like.
Yeah, plus a liner. We talked about dropping in a liner.
Well, I think,
Okay, so is that different than so I'm understanding that to be the in situ form.
Well, if we drop in a liner tomorrow for 100 grand, for instance, then the rest of the project can be continued, and then we can figure out plan to replace the tank at $500,000. Or, if dropping in that liner is, 45% the cost of a new tank, then it's a different decision-making process, so.
Yeah, again, the new tank is only 126,000. My guess is 304 version's gonna be maybe $20,000 cheaper than that. And this is gonna be very difficult to put a liner in. It's probably a coating on the inside would be the easiest thing to accomplish.
Right. So right now they're telling us it's a $500,000 expense to us, Stan. So what I want to find out
That's
is
the total cost, though. The tank
get-
itself is only 126.
yeah, a lot of that's installation.
yeah. Well, let's well, if the plastic liner is $20 and installation's $300, then we just need to take a look at it. That's all. Breakdown. What the costs are. We owe it to everyone to take a look at what it is. I mean, people put bed liners in their trucks all the time. It doesn't mean that the bed will never rot. I get it, but we should take a look at it.
Certainly.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
I'll talk with the in situ form, and we'll get some information and from them, and I'll circle back with John and Tia and Dan, everyone here. And then I guess we can continue the conversation, hopefully with some more information in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and then break out the contingency money. What's that consist of,
Brian, I had some questions too on that design sheet, the screen design criteria. Doesn't seem to jive one side to the other. I don't know if you want to just go over that some other time or.
Yeah, I mean, so if you get the questions here, I mean, for John and Tia.
Okay, so is this unit going to be bigger than the existing unit?
Tia, do you know the answer to that? I understood we were matching the same.
No, it's the same size.
Okay, so the question I have is right now we have a 2 millimeter micro strainer, which is what the proposal on the left-hand side is talking about. But the design criteria for that 2 mil is only 500,000 gallons per day. And this one's showing 1 million gallons per day as far as a peak flow capacity. So I didn't know if it was going to be a larger, micro strainer basket, or it actually looks like it's smaller. If you look at the right-hand side of the screen, it says the basket's only 13 inches. Our existing one, which is only 500,000 gallons per day, is 16 inches in diameter. The other thing too is on the right-hand side, you have 1/4 inch orifice diameter. That's 3 times bigger than what we have right now. And the micro strainer was basically set up with the 2 mil to basically pull out here. And this is going to allow a lot more debris to come in at 1/4 inch. And again, one side doesn't seem to agree with the other side. So we should just, if you know the answer, that's great, but we should double check it.
Yeah, we'll double check that. Unless Tia, do you know the answer to the question?
No, we'll double check it. I mean, what you're seeing on the Raptor quote from that's what would be specified. The table on the right is what we created. So, that just we need to double check it, but yeah, it should
Okay,
be
so-
matching what you have. That's the idea.
Yeah, so the question is, how do you get 1 million gallons per day out of this new unit if it's the same size versus what the original, the upgraded one was basically rated for by Lakeside? And just need to
Yeah, I
clarify.
mean,
Well,
the rated capacity may be the average flow, and what we are showing is the peak flow. That may be the difference. I'll have to double check that, but that's pretty typical that you'll have a rated capacity and a peak flow that are not matching.
yeah, no, the 500,000 was max flow. So
Okay.
I think the only other thing on this was how are you, you're still gonna maintain the wedge wire screen? And that's gonna be piped in?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
idea. Mhm.
And what are you gonna use as the primary screen?
It would be this screen would be the primary, and that would be the secondary, as it
Okay.
is now.
And you're gonna have it switch over automatically, given head conditions too?
If that, yeah, that's basically how it's currently operating.
Right, okay. I think
We all
that's
set,
about
are
it.
we all set with this?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I gotta jump to a DOT Route 3A Dawn meeting, but I know I see Scott and Rob on. They can talk about the generator and repairs. On
Are you
that.
gonna send this PowerPoint out to Carol so she can get it to Bill and I?
I
Yeah, I
believe
got one of them. I don't know if I got.
I believe I
this.
sent it to you yesterday, but
Yeah.
Okay,
I can resend it to you.
no, that's all right. If you sent it, I'll go take another look.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
We could go quickly to the generator.
Thanks, John and Tia.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're back to Rob and Scott.
Yeah.
You guys are less expensive to speak to.
Yeah, well, they keep sending us bills. That's the problem.
No, really.
Yeah, right. You haven't heard the whole proposal yet. So. Yeah. So the generator, right? We lost the power a couple weeks ago, whatever. They lost the main line on Elm Street here. And the generator turned on, generator failed. We had our contracted South Shore generator come out and look at it, and not good news. I'm assuming everyone has seen the quotes that have been forwarded. So the quote for the initial repair, the 25,780, they're telling me that they just did this about 2 months ago. This exact same stuff happened, and I apologize. It's either Wentworth or another W college, Westfield State, whatever. They have the exact same generator that we have. It's like had the same exact problems. They did not have to do the head gasket. The fear here is that it's the head gasket, and if it's the head gasket, it's a whole different ball game. So the quote that we have is for them to go in and do everything from the head gasket up, seals, water pumps, everything up, and put it back together. And their thinking is that the coolant is leaking in through the water pump, which is exactly what happened at Wentworth University. I'll call it Wentworth. They did all this work there, and everything has worked fine. They didn't have to change the head gasket. So if they do have to change the head gasket, all this work that they're going to do right now, they have to do anyway. All these gaskets, all the filters, all the fuel pump, all this work quoted for the 25.7, they're going to have to do regardless. So we're hoping to do this, and it'll fix the problem.
So,
Yeah.
So
go
we
ahead,
start-
You ask.
we start with this, and if it migrates, so I'm looking at one quote for 194,000.
So we have, just for
Is that a complete replacement?
that would be parts only, like just a new generator. there would be another hundreds of thousands of dollars to get rid of this one, to engineer the new one in, the cranes, you're looking at roughly, he told me, more than $250,000 for way more for a new
Yeah.
generator.
Yeah, well, with that, probably part of a bigger plan if we're gonna go down that road. So the 25,780 repairs the generator that they're very familiar with repairing. The question is, if you, like you said, if they had to go in and remove the head gasket, what's the additional cost, you know?
I don't have that because I didn't ask for that.
Yeah, so we're saying they have to do all of this work anyway, and if they find a bigger problem, the question is
what I do know is where we step up in money is if it gets the head gasket, now they have to remove that. They can't do that. That can't be done on site. So now that head now they have to tear down the whole thing. They have to remove the head gasket. They have to send it out, have it be remachined, all the work done, brought back. That's when the ball game changes, I think.
What do we do? What do we do when that generator goes off to the ball game? What do we do in the meantime? We're gonna have to have something standby, right?
Yeah, we currently have standby generator. Yeah,
Okay.
we have to have standby generator. So that was taken care of within a couple days. Secured.
So the rental is at the 8,100.
That's the $8,400 a month. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Which is a state requirement, emergency power on site.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so right now we've already got the emergency generator, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
The backup generator.
Yep.
So when did that start? January or February?
January.
All right. So obviously I'm in favor of repairing the existing generator. How quickly can they come out and do that? Is that within the month of February or?
Yeah, I would assume so. Yes, he indicated that with approval, they're estimating it's going to take a week to do it. I can't say they're going to be out here next week, but yeah, I would imagine before the end of February they'd be out here.
Okay.
I got kind of a two-part question. So say we approve the repair. How soon into this do they realize that they basically have to either gut the unit or get a gasket, all that sort of stuff? And how quickly could we get a new one if that's the only remedy that's up to us?
That's the problem. So the new one's 190,000.
Yeah, I know.
Question
Well, I know
is,
that.
yeah. So we're already in it. We're already in this one for 25, right?
Well,
So
that's the thing. I mean, if we're going to keep pouring sand down the hole, I'm like, why?
yeah. So what's the, yeah. So
So the only thing I would lean, to try to make you feel better, I guess, is to say that generator had, and I guess it's a catch-22. It does not have a whole lot of hours on it. It has under 500 hours of runtime on that generator. So, why did it
it's,
fail now? I don't know. That's not.
And it's a diesel, right?
No, that's natural gas. That's the other increase in cost to the generator. It adds another, I forgot what he said, $50,000 because it's natural gas fed.
Wonderful.
So I guess the question is, I would approve obviously the repair because we're spending 8,000 too. The question I would have for you, Rob, is what worst case scenario they have to do the head gasket? What kind of cost would that be? Doesn't have to be a formal written quote. I'm just curious. Is it?
we can certainly ask them for a non-binding, best guess.
Yeah, I mean, if this is 25 and 80% of the labor for the head gasket repair is already in this number, then maybe it's only another 10 or 12 grand or something, I don't know.
That's South Shore, right, Scott?
That's South Shore. Yeah, I can reach out to Jeff as soon as we get off this call and ask him. Absolutely.
Yeah, just an email saying, hey, if it happens to be the head gasket, it's got to be an extra 10 or 12 or something like that. But I'd just like to know what that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the next step's very costly because a lot of the stuff's got to be removed off site and machined.
Yeah, if you want a new one, um, if a natural gas generator is more expensive to run, or in your quote you have another natural gas generator for 194. Is there a benefit to running natural gas versus electricity? Obviously, we're only using it when the power goes out, so it's not like we're running it all the time, so our electric bill would be really high. So that's the question. I mean, if it's an extra $50,000 because of its natural gas, what is it? Is it 50,000 less if it's electric, right? So I don't know.
Talking about diesel.
You mean
Yeah, I was wondering about
yeah.
diesel?
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. Yeah.
And you have to store that on site and
store that on site.
replenish
And
the
I
supply.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Conserve would
Oh, the diesel fuel you would have
the
to store.
diesel fuel. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
to have diesel here. Or at least have it. Somebody fill it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Based on where we are. I'm assuming that's why they went with natural gas.
Yep.
Was because of the location of where we are. But
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's
That's fine.
basically, I mean, it's the same thing as this, I mean, if somebody has home heating oil, I mean, diesel is basically home heating oil with a different dye in it for
Yeah.
taxes and, Otto Von Diesel made a nice machine and I mean, those things last 10, 12,000 hours easily. That's what I'm thinking there. Now, I have a feeling the biggest concern would be the noise of the exhaust while we're using it. To our butters.
With 500 hours on the machine, it's would be very unusual for the head gasket to go.
Yeah.
But the water pump leaking in sounds like a more reasonable alternative. All of these generators, though, it's usually much easier or much cheaper to repair them. And they could last for 40 years, you know what I mean? At least.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's just that the water pump.
Yeah.
Like that'd be the logical.
Do you want to make a motion, Paul, and we can
Sure.
move on?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the repair for $25,780.43 to the generator.
I will second. We'll do a roll call. Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kearsey, aye. And if you could let us know if that could be done within the month of February, because we'll be $16,000 into a
Yeah.
yeah, no, as soon as we get off the call, I will reach out and schedule and I will update everybody as to what they say.
Yeah,
Okay,
that'd
and
be
then-
perfect. Yeah, that'd be
and
great.
then once it's completed, just give us a total amount of the rental expense so we can get an idea of where we are on our budget.
Absolutely.
I guess if we're looking for any silver lining, it's we didn't relocate that through the CZM. Imagine we moved that to that new platform and then this happened. On top
have
of
to do it at
everything
night.
else that's going on. Which I know doesn't help, but.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
All right. All right. Well, why don't we
Thanks a
move
lot.
on? Anything else to go
Thanks,
over, guys?
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
No, thank you. Yeah, we're always appreciative of your efforts.
Thank you. Have a
Thank-
great week.
Nice
Thanks.
job getting that emergency one out there too. That was fast.
Very welcome. Thank you so much.
Well, they know that my office is like I can see what they're doing. So
Yeah, we know where Bill is now.
yeah, if there are no trucks in the driveway, I'm like, All right.
But I'm gonna jump. Thank you.
Very good, very good. So we'll go on to our last piece of business, 26 Lambert's Lane, and just as a point of introduction, I've asked Charlotte with Conservation and Pam from Town Health to join us. I know they've been involved to some extent, but I mean, I don't really know the intent or the extent of the of what they've been doing. But I want them to be part of this discussion from going on. And ladies, if you have something to add before we start, please do. If not, we can get right into this.
Yeah, I
So,
talked with Dan
I'm
quickly
sorry,
this
Paul.
morning. In our last sewer meeting, you know, we had approved the 28 and 26 Lambert's Lane for sewer, just those two lots only. And they were to get us the detailed plans illustrating only those two properties. And there was discussion of, you know, the other two that are not in the sewer district, but our focus was on 26 and 28. I believe Dan received some changes to that, so he can update us on that.
Yeah, we received plans from Jeff last night, and I was able to take a quick look at them this morning. There's still a couple questions I had on the plans. And Jeff, maybe you can address those. Well, I had put a note on there and maybe you missed it. It was basically, we'd like to see where the water services are running, just to make sure that there's no conflicts with the sewer for that. And the other thing was the 1/10 drop through the manholes. So Jeff, maybe you can respond to those. You're muted.
Jeff, I think you're muted.
All right, sorry about that.
So Jeff, did you hear me or?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I missed I didn't see the note about the water. I'll put that on. That shouldn't be a big deal. The question you had about the drop, was it 2/10 or something inside the manhole?
1/10, yeah.
I've never done that. I mean, I'm an engineer, but I'm actually been a contractor a lot longer than I've been an engineer. And we've never ever done that because you put the manhole, you run it from center line to center line in the manhole, you know, you set up your laser, you run it, and that's where it goes. And I mean, it's.
Are you familiar with Technical Release 16?
I've never read it.
That's basically the interstate standards that Massachusetts adopted for sewer design. And it's basically a recommendation in that. So it really is almost like a state requirement.
I've been putting in sewers for 30 years and we've never done it. But
God bless you. I mean, it doesn't make a heck of a lot of difference if the sewers are in a straight line, but you are making some bends here. And you do have some services that are entering in the manholes. So the 1/10 drop is recommended. And
that's fine. I mean, it's just.
You should put it in.
All right, I'll do it.
Well, just out of curiosity, what does that do? Just slow down the flow rate or increase it?
It increases it so that solids don't deposit in there because the roughness of the channel is much more rough than the pipe
okay.
itself.
So it's a better design, basically. Yeah. So Jeff, yeah, but if it's a better design, let's do it.
So those are the two things that I don't think you addressed. So we'll need those changed.
Up to you, Charlie. Can we get them approved with the conditions? I mean, they're two minor issues.
I don't know if the board had a chance to review the plans. They just came last night. So
Yeah, I have not either. Yeah, we just want to go through those ourselves with Dan and so
yeah, it's probably best if you just make those changes, submit, and then they can basically entertain it at the next meeting. If you can get them, today or tomorrow, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I mean, I certainly will go by Dan's advice on this as to, good, bad, or indifferent, but I think we're in the right course on this right now, so.
and this is just
my only question is would it be better to have that angle for the whole pitch of the whole pipe to make it better, or is it only the last section that goes into the sewer? Is that?
I'm not sure if I'm following you, John.
Yeah, like the existing pitch right now it seems to be the same as what was going into the road. Would it be better to pitch that a little bit more? The whole run from each house?
Don't want to do that because now you're not gonna have enough fill.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, that's fine. But we could go a little deeper, maybe. Oh, yeah, okay, all right, I understand. All right.
And Pam and Charlotte, have you seen these updated drawings?
I did. I saw her this morning.
Okay. Any comment?
I don't on the sewer specifically. So our role in this point in the site is that like the Board of Health oversees the cleanup. This was declared a dumping ground under solid waste regs. So
the
first
phase of that.
Charlotte, can you mute? Thanks. The first phase was completed. They removed some asbestos that had been on the ground. And so now phase 2 is going to be the solid waste removal. So I know there's been a lot of snow on the ground. It's probably not the best conditions. But like nothing else, no more permits can be issued until like that's complete. Like you have to kind of like sign off, done, completed cleanup, and then you can move forward. So, I mean, it's great you guys can approve plans and stuff, but like no actual work can begin until this dumping ground is cleaned up. So John, I know it has been cold and it's, we just turned to February. Is there any update on what's going on with the cleanup?
Yeah, they scraped the 6 inches down and they have 2 piles, and I'm trying to get the excavation company to come and remove it this week. And the company Ty and Bond has done test areas, the 8 test areas, and they're making progress there as well. The test results came back pretty good. So I think by, I'd say not this week, but by the end of next week, you'll probably receive a letter from Ty and Bond saying that the site's cleared. It's like 50 yards of fill we have to, and debris that's kind of mixed in together because that back area where the junk was, it was pretty deep with glass bottles. It looked like maybe 100 years of dumping back there. And it went down about 2 feet in a lot of areas. So it created a big pile in the backyard right now. And we're basically working this week to get it out and move it out of there. But it's, that the stuff in the back is, didn't have any asbestos or anything in it, and they tested it thoroughly. It has mostly glass and old steel from like 50 to 100 years ago. And so that's what's going to be removed next. So that's all I have. I don't know if you need more info.
Nope, that's good. We'll look forward to the report from Ty and Bond.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I'll just quickly add to that under the order of conditions and the stormwater permit that were issued for the project. There are conditions specifying that, it's contingent upon all other approvals. So any changes as a result of, this commission and any other permits that are needed, all those changes do need to be submitted back to the Conservation Commission in writing directly. And we just need to evaluate that. It really depends on those changes. So I did look at the revised plan now, but I'm kind of like holding off a little bit until we can finalize these plans. And if a submission to conservation is needed, then I can work with John on that and his team. And then as Pam said, with the cleanup phase of the plan, our permits are phased into 3 phases. So there's the cleanup, the construction, and then the restoration of the site in terms of conservation restoration. So no phase can occur before the previous one has been completed. So as Pam mentioned, we just have to finish the work cleanup phase first. That, we'll look out for the report. We'll review that. We'll go to the site. We'll make sure everything is okay. And then, we can provide an update. But then the construction phase obviously wouldn't be able to start, of course, until all other permits are obtained as well.
Anything else, guys?
No, that's it. Thank you. We're submitting for the other 2 permits to the town for the town meeting in May, and we wanted to try to get your signatures as well if you live in Cohasset to support us connecting the other 2 properties to the sewer, because we still feel that it was one lot back in 2014 when the sewer districts were drawn, and we think it was just an oversight, and we feel that the other 2 properties should be allowed to be connected to the sewer. And we're also bringing the sewer line up we can bring the sewer line up for other neighbors on Lambert's Lane and expand the capacity for all of the neighbors if they ever wanted to go on to sewer. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody in the neighborhood. And basically we feel that since Hull or Hingham don't have any concerns and they asked us if we wanted to add more neighbors to the sewer, this might be a good opportunity to let Cohasset provide more sewer utilities to some of the community here.
Well, the only
So-
people that can hook up the sewer are the ones that are in the district. That's it.
Yeah, but you would expand the district. So as part of the town meeting, maybe, you know, let's say we had 10 more houses around here that wanted to connect. Would you support something like that if there's no limitations, like Hull or Hingham don't care and they actually they actually wanted more? And it's better for the environment as well, because there is a river here. There's a lot of septics flowing into this river. And kind of it's a win-win for everybody because everybody gets the sewer. You get more budget money to fix things that are broken over there in Cohasset. And you know, the septics are cleaner and it's just a win-win. So we're just hoping we can get your support on it. And I'm just wondering if I could submit the petition to you and get your signatures as well. Folks from the sewer commission.
Yeah, I think we're restricted from
Yeah,
submitting petitions to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think we can do that,
Yeah.
and I think it'd be inappropriate since we're, you know, so part of the presentation team to, you know, tell the populace what's going on, so don't think we can do it.
okay,
Anything else?
that's all I have.
All right.
Right, thank
I'll
you
make
very
a- I'll
much.
make a go ahead. Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know if there was any other business on the agenda for anybody.
No.
Carol, all set, Bill? All right,
We're
I'd like to
good.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it, and we'll do a roll call. Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kearsai.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.